Get ready.
Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of Gullcast, a production of Endicott Esports and the School of Sports Science. I'm your host, Brennan Hall, Esports Coordinator here at Endicott. And as always, we're taking you through this fascinating industry with some of the most captivating people leading the conversations. As always, you can catch up on all our past episodes on Spotify and YouTube. Just search through our catalog for past episodes and or subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's at Endicott Esports. And if you're really liking these episodes, we'd really appreciate a 5-star review. This is our 22nd episode. And among all of our guests, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Chris, this could be our toughest challenge. And why? Because you have so many elite insights into esports. We both have a gift for gab, and we both have a hard stop in an hour. So we're going to try to encompass a lot here, but promise me it's going to be so worth it. Please welcome with great honor my next guest, all the way from Conestoga College in Kitchener, Ontario, the great and powerful Chris Lamarucciola. How we doing, bud?
You crushed the pronunciation too. Good job.
I try. You know, I used to do this for a living way back in the day. So I try my best, you know.
Austin has a little bit of Italian in it somewhere, right? So you're good.
Yeah, I will stand on this. You know, our my work study intern here this summer is from Ireland, and I feel like I explain him every day about something new about American culture. I will stand on this. We got the best Little Italy in North America, the north end of Boston. The only thing that compares, I think, might be Federal Hill in Providence, Rhode Island, but I don't know. You're in your head because Toronto's probably got a few things up your sleeve, but
yeah,
man, we got a little bit of that paysan in us for sure as an Irishman.
Yeah, I think we'll have to get you to Little Italy here, and then
right on,
and then have a food tour. We're gonna turn this into a food podcast. Forget esports, but thank you for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be here, and I love chatting with you. And this is a great. It's gonna be a great hard stop hour.
Oh, we try. The punk rock never stops, man. Let's start here. Let's start with your journey into this profession, because you spent a considerable amount of time on the pro scene before you moved over to the collegiate ranks last year. So how did it start? And then let's talk about what you're building over at, what do they call it? Stoga? Is that what the locals call it? Stoga?
Somebody created that, and I
created that.
Yeah,
okay.
So
I'll roll with it. It rolls off the tongue, kind of like llama.
Stoga,
You know. By the way, like I was kind of thinking on the way over here. Like, there's a Dalai Lama. Is there like an equivalent?
That's my username, and
okay.
That's my secondary account on most games is Dalai Lama. And
I was gonna say, it's
like
Como
Se Lama.
Como Se Lama. Is there like a like, if there was a Dalai Lama for esports, what would that look like?
This guy right here.
This guy right here. Here we go. You
like that? You like that, right?
Yeah, I
do.
So
my journey, that's a long one. So we're gonna have to extend the podcast to 2 hours now. I'm joking. I'll try to pare this down as best as possible. So as with everybody else's, journey in esports and gaming, we've been playing games for our entire lives. It's just how we've grown up, right? So whether that's coming from, for me, as my earliest memories, obviously maybe through photos, is me holding a controller, like the original Nintendo NES, where I wasn't actually playing, but my dad was, or my sister was, and always remembering like going to my grandmother's house, and she had like the really cool stand-up case for the NES with the door and all the games, and I'd play a lot of. I think my favorite game was Blades of Steel. Lots of hockey.
yeah.
Blades of Steel.
Blades of Steel. Sorry, I'm interrupting here.
You're
Blades
fine.
of Steel crawled so NHL 94 could walk. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. NHL 94, really good. And then getting into like PC gaming and like 99, I would just remember NHL 99, NASCAR. What else did I play? Lots of Roller Coaster Tycoon. Still a fan favorite.
Oh yeah.
Sims. I used to like all those games on PC. They used to come in a cereal box for kids that are growing up now. We used to get DVD, CD, ROM games in our cereal boxes, and you can get cool games like Roller Coaster Tycoon or Wheel of Fortune or games like that. I think, can't remember. But yeah, always a gamer. Always had a good time with that, but never really actually got into the competitive space at all growing up. I was more of hockey, baseball. Was those were my two main sports. Very competitive, still playing both games now. Um, and kind of went through a weird path through education. Is After grade 12, I took a gap year, didn't know what I wanted to do. I worked for a family member's construction company, learned some skilled trades, which was great. Um, Decided that I wanted, like, had a knack for photography and marketing. So went into a photography program at Seneca College, which was local for me. Um, got my photography diploma, started my own photography business, did that for a long time. Then kind of like sometimes, when you just like fall out of love with work, you love what you're doing, but like the work aspect to it might not.
It becomes work instead of a
Yeah,
passion, right?
right.
Yeah.
So it became that. And I think because a lot of like family was asking me to do stuff for like whether it was pro bono, didn't respect the fact that like I had bills to pay or lenses to buy or whatever, how much time it takes afterwards to edit those things. So I really just like shut down on person to person photography and then got into like product photography and music and event stuff where I didn't really have to worry about like the subject. It was more being able to be creative and that. So continued photography a little bit, went back to work construction because I enjoyed that. I was doing landscape construction, more creativity, working on people's like outdoor stone laying and bricklaying and all that kind of cool stuff. Worked on this one guy's house for a whole summer and we did some really cool shit there. But continued to work on my photography and marketing of the business that we were working on, and helped that family friend develop their business more. And I was like, I want to go back to school for marketing. So I went back to school, 27 years old, um, back to school for, they changed the program name now, but it was event marketing for sports, entertainment, and arts. Um, Lots of brand activation stuff, lots of event planning, all of these different pieces. And during that was kind of the rise of Fortnite and competitive video games. And I was like, this interests me. I've always been gaming, still playing Call of Duty with friends online, playing this Fortnite game that's super popular. And I was like, let me do some research on what's going on in the esports scene. So did my research, called up a friend. I was like, crazy thought. Do you think we can do this? Like, let's start an esports team. It's like, sure. Yeah, let's see it. He's like, he was more of a competitive gamer. I had the marketing and the creative side of things. So we started this organization that was called Shattered Dreams Esports. Um, and
That's legend.
yeah, so I still have jerseys like hanging up in my office, like to this day. So we started that org and we kind of modeled it in the local area. There was a lot of LAN centers. There was a lot of kids coming into these LAN centers to play, but there was no competitive game. There was no tournaments. There was no whatever. So we actually partnered with a local shop. Um, they gave us this, which looking back at this now is kind of crazy. Without really like a big pitch or a model, like they just gave us a training room and said, if you can bring people, we'll give each of these people 10 to 20 hours a month for free gaming. We branded the room, we put like decals on the chairs so it looked like they were our chairs and all this stuff and like made ourselves look a lot bigger than we actually were. Over a couple of years, we started to get attention from um, classic story, right? VCs and investors and sponsors and all of this stuff. So um, got a call one day from this company, and I don't want to. I'm not going to throw names out there. If anyone wants to do their own research, they can. Um, but we got this call, and the guy goes, "We want to acquire your team." And I was like, "I've never done this before, so I have no idea." Um, so we go meeting, show the deck, show our audience, show our revenue, which was like maybe if we were lucky, we made like $20,000 that year. Um, and I'll never forget this. It was no, that we don't want to acquire you anymore. Um, but it was also like you're doing a really good job of making yourselves look bigger than you actually are. So kudos to that. And that made my like marketing brain feel really good. Because we're present. We were always present. And I'm sure later on if other questions we'll get into this, but like that's my model now is be present, be active, be part of the conversation, whatever it is. Um, Fast forward a year later, same guy calls me back and he's like, okay, are you ready? Because I'm ready. And I said, yeah, let's do this. Let's get into business together. And at that time, they had just acquired a 14,000 square foot esports arena, per se, if you want to call it that, land center local to us, like 10 minutes down the road from where I was living at the time. And was like, I'm in. Let's do it. Office in the back of the land center. We'll bring our team. We'll do all the stuff, sell merch, run podcasts, make media, all this stuff. And then part of that plan was like trying to acquire top rosters and what games we wanted to achieve and be a part of. So we then found, through kind of just research, this one really good Rainbow Six team who was one of the best in Canada. They were the best in Canada. I don't want to say one of the best. They were the best in Canada. They just won the Canadian League finals, and they actually just won their qualification to the Six Invitational, which is the biggest Rainbow Six event of the year. It's the World Championships. I called my team manager for Rainbow Six and I said, these guys are signed to a amateur organization. Whatever it takes, I need you to sign this roster. So we put all of our resources into this bucket and we acquired this roster. They were going through some stuff with their organization. Their contracts actually ended before SI was going to happen. And we ended up signing this team. They had qualified for the Pro League as well, but because of the need of financial commitment by Ubisoft, they were unable to go to Vegas that year. So they had to go back down to the Challengers League. It's when the US League and the Canadian League merged to make the NAL. So then we were working with Ubisoft to try to figure out how to get to the Pro League. Never worked out, so we had to go through Challengers. That team ended up going to SI that year, placing 9th to 12th. So I think $70,000 US in prizing, which is huge for a Canadian company. It's like 100K. Then winning through Challengers, League One. Stage 2, we had to drop out of because it was the same time as SI. And then we won Stage 3, which qualified us now for the promotion relegation match versus XSET in Las Vegas. First time these kids get to go play on LAN. And we swept 3-0 versus XSET, got promoted into the Pro League that year. Had to move everyone to Vegas. Did the whole thing there. Got gunskins in Rainbow Six. Really cool. Continued to build the brand up. And then due to some unfortunate circumstances, the parent company that actually had acquired us after the first acquisition, which I kind of skipped, decided that they no longer wanted to invest in esports. Classic story again. I exited around that time as well, and then took a year off, worked for a company called Viral Nation as a talent manager or account manager for talent business development, helped a bunch of celebrities and influencers launch brands. And then I got a call from Conestoga. We're building this really cool esports arena on our campus. We've got teams, we've got facilities, we've got media, we've got all of these pieces. We're looking for an additional person to support our current team to continue with the business development, this, that, etc. And that's kind of where I've landed now. So that was the longest, shortest version that I could put together my last 9 years.
Henry Longfellow couldn't have done that better, man. Like it's I mean, it's a lot of twists and turns, but I mean, that's esports life. Okay. Right. I want to go back to something you said early on here in that spiel about, being present, being active, and, the motivation when they were looking to acquire you, and then kind of reneged. It was like, you're bigger than you appear to be, or we thought you're bigger than you are.
Mm-hmm.
Which speaks to what you're saying about the way you present yourself, right? I think we're all going through that now in this digital age of creating some inbound for ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question I would have for you on this is, I think we're kind of the same feather in that, we want to create an environment here where students are learning how to brand themselves, how to make their own creator brands.
Yeah,
I think it can be discouraging. Like you're getting on the stream and you get 7 people viewing you, right? But this point you make about people taking interest in you because of how you're like, what do you say to to students that are starting out that are trying to take that first step?
You have to keep working through what you're doing. Be proud of the 7 people that actually are there and want to be there because you're doing something right to that group.
Mhm.
We're not always gonna connect with everyone. We're not always gonna have good rapport with everyone. Um, if you're in the middle of a stream and, you have a really good strong hook at the beginning and that's how you get those 7 people to come in, and then some other people are now clicking on and, joining, like, what's your retention strategy when people are there or joining? And it's really hard. And if you watch good streamers and professional streamers, every like sometimes maybe too often, they're going back to like reintroduce themselves or talk about who they are and what they do and all this stuff. And that's really that hook and retention, right? So I try not to look at the numbers when I'm streaming, although it kind of does help me know when like I want to elevate my content at the moment, but I try to look more at the chat to see, oh, somebody new is chatting, or when it shows the highlight, first time chatter, first time follower, whatever it is. That's when I'm gonna go back and do my, hey, I'm Chris, I'm the esports manager at Conestoga College, um, and do my little pitch, right? To try to hook them, try to get them to follow, try to get them to go to my Twitter or whatever other channel and convert them to like a longer, more engaged follower. But at the same time, I'm not always gonna convert everyone, right? Um, maybe they're not interested that day. Maybe they don't wanna follow, they just wanna see what it is. Who's this person? They've got a catchy, title. Maybe they've got 15, 20 people and whatever it is. So, you just gotta keep working and working towards your goals too. Like, if your goal is to hit 500 followers or if it's to hit affiliate is the first benchmark we want to hit. That's 3 concurrent viewers over a week of streaming, and you got to stream like 5 out of 7 days. It's pretty attainable with a group and a friends group to do that. But then how do you sustain it to then reach that partner, which is like a huge step above. And partner for most people is not attainable. And that's not a problem either. Like there's no issue with it. For me to kind of like close the loop on this question is I'd rather have a small engaged audience than a large unengaged audience where if I'm streaming and there's 10 people and they're chatting the whole time, that's amazing versus having 50 people who are just like lurking in the chat and maybe one chat every so often. And I'm trying to model that with our organization right now is like I don't try to look at the numbers per se of like who's actually watching. I want to see who's engaged with our content and who's actually going out afterwards to follow and engage with our YouTube and our Twitter and our LinkedIn and all those other pieces that are actually generating meaningful pieces to the rest of the puzzle.
Well said. Well said. Well, let's talk about what you're building here at Conestoga. And when you took this on, what was your vision? What are you looking to accomplish in this role?
I think that so I've had to remodel this kind of from what the college's vision was first, right? And me coming in from like you said earlier, and what I told in my story is like that professional mindset. And I didn't touch on revenue generation or audience development or all those other pieces, but and this is kind of a hot topic right now too, with a lot of schools opening facilities and trying to do a lot of things that like if you build it, they will not come. We have an esports hub. Do we need an arena? And for us, yes, we do because regionally we have a very strong esports community that has an appetite and a need for this building. So to kind of explain to everyone listening, we're building a 10,000 square foot esports arena that duels also as a lecture hall and has up to 400 seat capacity. There's a gaming floor where you can come and drop in every day as a student, um, 3 hours per day. Our varsity athletes are going to have a training room. My staff is going to have a staff room. There's going to be a ticket box office, retail section. iRacing sim, classroom kind of iteration for a broadcast studio, state of the art, and actually caster and analyst booth, and then like our IT stuff and all the other pieces, stage, fully modular so we can move stuff in and out and around and that. Um, we have, and the reason why I say we need this is because right now we have a really strong relationship with our Catholic school board, so the WCDSB, so Waterloo Catholic District School Board. They're bringing in 500 to 600 students a year right now into our college, and they've already outgrown our esports hub. Every year they want to bring more and more. So recently we just hosted a 120 elementary kids who came in to play a Mario Kart tournament that was sanctioned and ran by our department. They wanted to bring 300. I had to say no. We don't have the capacity. But next year when the arena's open, we can have up to 400 in the arena and another 70, 80 in our esports hub. We had to rent classrooms and we had to like move screens or like be very creative on how we did that. We had like queues in the hallways in the school. Insane. So that's just that group. That doesn't include the public board. That doesn't include the public on its own. And then I'm part of and was just named co-chair of the Waterloo Region Esports Commission. And we're about to host in collaboration with, well, it's not our event, but we're the host of, or the host city of the Call of Duty champs that is coming to Kitchener in at the end of June. So we have a world-class event coming to our space, and now we want to showcase that we're making an investment in the city as Conestoga to host world-class events. So you can now host a smaller, maybe an A-tier event at Conestoga, or you can host your S-tier event at our regional hockey arena or wherever else. Anyway, back to the vision of stuff. I've had to kind of like
Congrats, by the way. Yeah.
Sorry?
Congrats, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's great. And thank you so much. Like,
yeah,
it's still kind of like this has all happened. I've only been my year. I'm on month 11 of my 1 year and been able to achieve like a lot of really cool stuff.
quite insane, if I don't
Yeah,
mind me saying.
but I also probably have an unhealthy relationship with work, but it's because I love what I do and I have a great like I think forward thinking. Like there's a ton of opportunity. It's just like we're esports is in a really weird spot right now, and it's been like in this like really growing pain area for the last little bit. But I think people like us who have come from some kind of the structure and have had our hearts broken in one way or another, um, we're able to take that and adapt those visions that you had said into like what's actually going to be successful. So part of it is like me having to work with the team that we're under, so athletics and rec, um, my supervisor of operations who like works with me directly for esports, and like let's pare down, let's really scope into what the important pieces are. So what I've brought in and was kind of already modeled, but like really structured it out and laid it out for visual is 4 pillars of facilities, events, um, media, and teams. The 3 core drivers of revenue and audience development are our events, our media, and then we have the facilities as that location. The teams are great. We have multiple varsity, we have multiple academy teams that are paired well with varsity teams, but they're just like they're there as a marketing tool, as an attention grabber for some students who are wanting to come play at a high level or have the ability to play at a high level. But just like your pros, you have your 0.0 whatever 1% of high level, high performing athletes in esports or in traditional sports. But what's actually attracting a lot of people to the school right now is those other 3 pieces. We've got the programs that help with the media, the events, and then the facilities that we need staff to work in. So we hire a ton of student staff. I think last year we hired 70 students to work in our space for the entire year. Next year with the arena, we're going to need 100 students and continue to grow. And we're a student service first. So we want to cater to our student services and then we go out into the peripheral for everything else.
So winding it back a little bit, because you talk about the experience of growth. And it points to something that I think we've seen other orgs make mistakes with over and over is you got there to where you are, you're able to get that next step because you are clearly oversubscribed, right? And I think where we've seen failures is this for lack of a less cliche metaphor, a horse before, a buggy before the horse kind of deal, right? What how did you get to that point where you're oversubscribed? Like how did they get to a place where the people feel like there's such a demand for that?
It's actually like the fact that we're oversubscribed, maybe not necessarily within the college, and that's the piece too, right?
Yeah.
Is we're still meeting and we're in one campus of like 7 campuses that we have at the college that are all in different little cities in the Kitchener region or the Waterloo region. Um, so um, our campus is pretty tiny, and we still have to go out to other campuses and be like, have you heard about esports? Do you know about esports? We have digital signage up, and we have some marketing stuff around, and we have one of the strongest pieces of our portfolio is our satellite event coordinator. So GA, shout out, goes to every different campus across all of Conestoga and sets up TVs, a booth for open gaming, and then runs micro events, and then sometimes does and brings people to Waterloo, which is our main esports campus, for a greater event, right? So that's our like outreach internally within the 4 walls of Conestoga. But then Zach, who's developed this really strong relationship with the Catholic School Board, that's like our outbound marketing to future student recruitment. This is what you have in your backyard. Come and play. And we've built this out where there's a PD event on in September for teachers who want to engage and learn about esports. Last term we had like 55 or 60 teachers who came out. We're expecting more. We're gonna have to like expand our rooms and whatever. We do a PD night. They do a walkthrough of the hub, and at the end of that night, through the Catholic School Board, and this is the craziest piece. The end of the night, the high school teachers went home to their classroom with an Xbox that was preloaded with Rocket League and all this stuff, and then the elementary schools all went home with a Nintendo Switch. So the school board is making an investment in this and then developing this into programming that now comes to Conestoga, which works with domestic recruitment for us. And then we're running Rocket League events, Mario Kart events, maybe rematch events next year, maybe other games that come out that might be competitive um, in the Nintendo world with the Switch 2. So there's all of this opportunity, and it's just right there. Um, I think, yeah, that maybe answers part of your question or some of it.
No, definitely. I mean, so you and I, we talk so much offline, online about monetization strategies. This is an area I think that in the collegiate space, there's a lot of opportunities that don't get capitalized on. I mean, we've both talked about this at length, right? You're in a good spot, and you're in Southern Ontario. That's like an esports hub. If you're an esports in Oregon, you're global. You got to have a presence in Southern Ontario, probably just as much, I think, as Texas or anywhere else, right? Same deal with Boston, right? We're a pretty active esports community. We have a lot of really sharp minds just from the colleges. We have a really thriving tech scene. It's an important area, right? So they're going to keep coming here. We're in a good spot for monetization, right? I think other schools that are in less desirable areas have a little more of a problem. But like, what is what is a good monetization strategy for a college? What should that look like? Because it can't all be competition, right? It can't be all eggs in one basket if you're going to thrive, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'd rather, and I think we're gonna see a
Yeah,
change in like monetization through prize pools is not a good model, and that's where esports organizations fail first. It's like
yeah,
we want to put all of our eggs in this one basket to win a bunch of prize money, but then you're paying it all out, especially in collegiate scene. It's
right.
expected to pay it all out, so you're not seeing it. You're seeing it as a revenue line, and then it's an expense out to all the players. Um, Unless you're winning hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially as a professional organization, then maybe if you retain your 10, 15, whatever industry standard is these days, whatever, 10% of 100,000 isn't going to go very far after you've invested however much into salaries or whatever. And then on the collegiate side, it's all scholarship money and whatever else. But when it comes to revenue generation, it gets really difficult. And at the end of the day, too, it depends on what your school's need for that is. And have you had those conversations with your administrators on like, what do we need to generate revenue for our organization to thrive? Do we need to? Do you guys care? Because some might not. They might see the perceived value in a different way, or their ROI is more ROE, which is return on engagement, or instead of return on investment, right? So um, for me, I'm seeing a shift, and I hope everyone is too, especially with the international discussion now, also in the U.S. and in Canada, with the ability to bring international students into your college, where generally they've had a higher tuition rate and all of this stuff, and they're able to put funds into different buckets, blah blah blah, whatever it is. It's shifting across North America completely, and we're going to see more need for every department, not just esports, to find ways creatively to generate revenue. So for me, one of the, and I don't want to say it's the easiest one, is the media bucket and trying to produce more media, like a podcast.
Content is currency, man.
Exactly. So like a podcast, longer form content, storytelling about your players, get people more attracted to things. Then once you've built that out, you can showcase this to brands and partners who want to engage with that, because brands want to engage with students. It's their easiest sell, is to get that. Really, generally, it's before the age of 18. They want to find, you want to find um, your buyer, whatever that might be, for long term. But students are great. That's how I got engaged with the bank that I've been with since I was 18 years old, because they sold me a credit card when I was uh, going into school. It's where I got my student loan. Probably all the stuff that's not great, but they hooked me because they had great deals and rates and whatever. And now I'm with them for life. I don't ever want to change my bank. It could go the opposite too. It could, throw you for a loop and be like, I don't want to deal with this brand anymore. But we're noticing that brands that students are using in the hub or in our space, they continue to use them in their next iteration, whether it's a monitor or peripherals or whatever else it is. So that's number two, is how can I sell sponsorship in our spaces? You have, if you have an organizational podcast, can that be presented by a brand? Going back to my satellite event conversation before, and also banks, um, we did the hub. It was the, what was it called? The Campus Cup. So all the different campuses had 3 representatives from each campus. We had 80 students sign up for this FIFA event, and then every campus had 3 qualifiers that then came to Waterloo for a grand final. I reached out to BMO, Bank of Montreal. They have an esports and gaming division called Next Level, and they sponsored our event. They threw in, and because we can't give out cash prize pools or our gift cards or those kinds of things, we got 4 tickets to a Toronto FC soccer game. We got 2 of like special edition jerseys to give away, and then a bunch of swag to throw away at the event, and they loved it. It was a great activation for them. It was very low cost. They already had the tickets available. They already had the jerseys. They mailed them. We did the whole thing. It becomes the campus cup presented by BMO Next Level, and there you go. I've got now this partnership relationship that can then turn into something larger down the road. Maybe next time I ask them for $5,000 or a couple $1,000, depending on how they perceive the value of the event. But these are little pieces, and it's all about relationship building first, and then going in for that ask. I can't ask you for 10, 20, $30,000, especially in the esports world right now, where brands have been burnt because of different things, and overinflated audiences. And go back all the way to the beginning of this, when I said my 3 engaged viewers versus my whatever many non-engaged viewers. That shit matters. Excuse my French.
You're good.
But that's what brands want. They want the engaged, and they also want the in-person. So when I said that this is an in-person event, and they get to see their brand slapped in front of everyone's faces for that much time, they're like, we're in. What do you need from us? Next time again. Maybe it's a value add where they come and they actually do a booth activation, or I get them on the broadcast. All of these different pieces. Merch, tough one when it comes to colleges, because you might have your merch department or your bookstore or whatever it is. They might have a deal. If you're an NCAA school, completely different conversation. In the collegiate scene in Canada, it's also complicated. Whether you're under athletics and rec, you're under student life, you're under this, that, whatever. Just got to talk to whoever it is about how you set the merch up. But I'm also in the model of, if you look back at my old organization, Parabellum, we never had esports on any of our merch, and I'm kind of moving that model away for our Condors brand too, where we're under athletics and rec, we're Conestoga Condors. There's a disconnect when people are wearing Condors esports branding, because the first question that comes up is, what school are you? Because we haven't built that community knowledge yet. Oh, Condors or Conestoga. So we have to go back and readopt the name Conestoga Condors and be part of the athletics and rec family that we are, and make things make sense on that front.
Yeah.
So merch, different conversation, really tough. Don't get into merch if you're gonna be buying merch up front. It's a loss leader, unless you have a huge audience that wants stuff. And if they're telling you they want stuff, they probably don't anyway, or they probably won't buy it because of the pricing. So media first, then events and sponsorship, and then merch down the line.
Yeah.
Merch is for your teams. Focus
I'm
on
glad
that.
you said the merch thing, because I think people really need to understand it, that like fulfillment is expensive, and logistically it can throw you into chaos.
Yeah.
But that's why
I
maybe
still have boxes of merch here. If anyone wants Parabellum stuff, hit me up. It's free.
listen, we'll happily take a box off you here at Endicott, man. Really will. Well, see, this is why, and I'm doing a big market tease here. Like you mentioned the bookstore contracts, everything. Nothing says you can't have a heat press in here though, and where the kids can make their own brands merch, right? And try to do that. Like that's another element. You've got some wonderful students there who I've bought some software off of for their own stuff. Really entrepreneurial kids. So I think it's why one of the reasons I love doing this in the colleges is because the entrepreneurial spirit. There's no better proving ground, I feel like. So, can we get to a lightning round quick? What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it. All right.
I'm scared,
So,
but okay.
nothing to be scared of, man. First question: what is the worst piece of advice you ever got in your career?
Worst piece of advice: that revenue matters more than everything else.
Wow. Tell me more.
Revenue's great, but revenue doesn't pay your bills. Profit pays your bills and pays yourself. Um, Watch the show Silicon Valley, and they do a great piece on revenue. I think I've posted it on Twitter a couple of times, but um, back in time, VCs cared more about revenue than anything else, and that you had like you weren't going into the red, but you were just showing that you were making money. But at the end of the day, it was just a burn, and it doesn't help anybody. So
Yeah. Maybe to that, it's saying the revenue showed that like what they had potential to be down the road, right?
yeah,
But
it was always like, just think about revenue, don't think about anything else. And that's probably my answer. That's the worst advice. I think that it's important to also think about the profit, because profit keeps businesses in
yeah,
in business.
yeah. But by the way, since you brought Silicon Valley, who would be the Erlich Bachman of collegiate esports?
I don't know if I want to say that.
No. All right, we'll go. We'll take that offline. All right, next lightning round question: what is an unpopular opinion that you stand on?
An unpopular opinion. I think
Isn't
I
that,
said it before.
yeah,
If you build it, they will not come.
I love this line. I love this line.
We're not in the we're not in that in that business. I think, and the thing is, a lot of the planning of buildings started 3-4 years ago, and now they're just starting to get built, because that's how long things take to um, build. I'm learning that right now. I mean, we were supposed to move into our space in May. it's being delayed, which is not a problem. It's actually better for me because it's giving me some runway to work on some business development. But build the audience first in this case and understand the need for the spaces and what your critical mass is before you get into the giant build out of these spaces. And depending on the size of the space too. If you're telling me you're going to build like a 20 PC hub and have a media studio and all of these great pieces that are educational, 100%. But if you're just building an esports arena or hub or whatever because you think that it's a need, it might not be. Wait till you need
Well
it.
said. What's a prediction you have for the future of esports?
The whole world of esports.
Or you can pick wherever you want there. But give me a prediction for the future.
Ooh, this is hot.
We like hot on this show.
I know. Trying to do this as good as I can. We're seeing it already, but we're gonna start to see more of it. Is consolidation. There's going to be a lot of consolidation in the professional scene where we're going to go from these tons of different organizations to your top maybe 20 to 25. And not to get political, you can see it already with the Esports World Cup where there's only so many teams that are engaged with it. There is still an open aspect to most of it, but your higher end organizations are going to start eating up all the smaller brands or consolidating with them. On the collegiate side, it's hard to say what we're going to see completely because I mean, again, I've only been here for 11 months. But I think that we're going to start to see more people coming in from the professional scene to support and model things a little bit stronger. And I don't think there's some people who are doing a good job that might not have experience in them from the professional scene, and that works. You can have collegiate experience and you have to understand the nuances of what a college and how they operate, which is why me and Zach have a great relationship and probably how we work together because he's been in the college for a long time through the student union and now as part of the esports department. And I don't understand how colleges work still. I learn new stuff every day. But
guilty as charged.
Yeah,
Same here.
Yeah, the business model side we get, right? So
yeah,
bringing that stuff in, and I came in with the business model at a great time because the shift in the collegiate scene is like insane. Collegiate as a sector, not as collegiate esports. I'd say that would be great. I'd love to see more teams be businesses first before they're just like these teams and whatever clubs. And then the second piece to that is I think, and the conversation is starting and it's happening. And I think more and more conferences that come up, we keep hearing the same things, is this esports pipeline will eventually get established from K to 12 to high school, sorry, K to 12 to collegiate to semi-pro to pro. We need that pipeline to be sustainable. And we need those partnerships like what Maryville has with Dark Zero right now, for that path to pro. And I mean, Dan's done a great job in developing talent.
phenomenal guy. Yeah, tremendous.
Yeah. If you ever get 20 minutes with him or 15, or he's a busy dude, but just let him talk for the 15 minutes and just absorb as much as you can. Be a sponge.
Yeah, listen, this is where I tell you, any Zoom call I've ever had with him, boy, like set your stopwatch. I can't get it done in under an hour and a half. You just pull the cord and he's just got wisdom just coming out of every pore, man. It's awesome.
And again, he comes from the professional side, so he
Right.
has a lot to go off that. And yeah, he's got great support at the college, but it wasn't just really handed to him in a way.
Right.
He's got to build that trust, and he's gotten to a level now of like people should strive to be, if they want to go that route with the competition. It's a hard way to get to, but
100%.
it's been done.
100%. All right. My last lightning question, I got to ask you because you're a Rainbow Six guy. Did you fall in love with the game first or Tom Clancy stories first?
Hard one. If we're just talking about Rainbow Six, the game, but I used to play like Splinter Cell on Xbox and whatever way back in time and used to hate my life playing those games. But no, I fell
Such
in
an
love.
underrated game, by the way.
Yeah. I fell in love with Rainbow Six and actually the ecosystem that was built at that time and how
Yeah.
strong the community was. Um, and it was never a game that I actually like thought about until it was introduced to me. Somebody explained the model of it. I love the fact that it's like a top-down shooter instead of like a flat, room by room, and just like the strategic nature of the game. Um,
Oh, it's so layered.
just yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible, and I had a really good mentor in the game, which was our team captain, Keegan, who really just like could explain all the aspects to it, and it's one of the few games that has stayed on my hard drive on my PC.
Yeah, I love asking this question because, like, when we had Team Secret here in February, and I had Marlon on our podcast, I said, "What percentage of pro Rainbow Six players are actually familiar with Tom Clancy stories?" And he said like probably less than 10%. I'm like, man, it's disappointing because have y'all ever seen like Clear and Present Danger or or any of that stuff? Hunt for Red October. Oh, it's good stuff, man. Oh, um, I'll end with this because we're up. I know we're kind of pushing up on time, but because you mentioned about some of the stuff going on with competitive and collegiate. Let me ask you this: next year, what is the biggest change you'd like to see happen in collegiate esports?
The biggest change I'd like to see in collegiate esports. I honestly, I heard this terminology at a conference recently in Vancouver, and it was co-opetition, meaning that
Mhm.
you and I can compete for the same thing, but we can still cooperate and be partners and have conversations and not need to have these rivalries, which I know there's a lot of chatter about rivalries and the need for it and all this kind of stuff in esports right now, but there's too much going on right now with programs shuttering and people losing their jobs and this and that and whatever, where we need more support together as an industry as opposed to just like separating everything. And that goes back to like the conglomeration of brands or whatever, if that's the word, I don't know. So co-opetition, that's the word I'm going to use because I learned it at this conference. um I think we need more of this. We definitely need more face to face. It's really tough with travel and timing and all of this stuff, but really getting everyone in the room and accepting everyone to have a voice, regardless if you are Maryville or if you are a larger college or if you're, little Joe who's trying to start um, a new program and doesn't have the funding, the development. Why are we leaving these people out of the conversation? I'm seeing it too much. So I'm going to put this out there on my perspective and my side. Like my door is always open to everyone. It's how you and I really started chatting.
Yeah.
I want to learn about the smaller programs. I want to learn about the bigger programs. I hope that everyone can and will reach out, ask questions. My model is different than your model is going to be, and that's fine. But I'm never going to leave people out of the conversation because you know, they're not a name school or they're not a Division 1 school or whatever the hell it is in the US. Um, I'm here to grow the industry. I've done everything that I've ever wanted to achieve in this industry. I've been on the world stage. We've won thousands of dollars of money. We have gun skins in games, sold however many thousands of jerseys. I am now here to give back to my students first, but I'm also here to give as much wisdom and experience that I've learned through failure over the last 9 years because I don't want people to have that same experience that I did. You need the experience of failure, but if I can make the blow softer, I will.
Credential bias, really, we don't. Everyone talks about confirmation bias and the pitfalls of that. We don't talk enough about credential bias, I feel like, and the collegiate scene. I mean, just to bring my own perspective. In all my years at Huddle, you do lots of product interviews with users, and you talk to 100 high schools. They have 100 different ways of doing it, right? And you look at the big programs, but honestly, my go-to source with product interviews for understanding the customer journey and the mindset was a middle school gym teacher in Manhattan, Kansas. Okay. It wasn't the athletic director at St. John Bosco or Modern Day High School. It was a guy in middle America who I don't know how many pennies he had to rub together, but he could tell me a whole heck of a lot about how your average customer is using the product than someone in their ivory tower. You know, you'd be surprised. It's like, you know, you're a hockey guy. I think the best minds in hockey are guys that take inspiration from other sports. Okay. I said this last year at NACE, like Joe Mazzulla that just won the NBA finals for the Celtics, the coach. He was a guy who's showing MMA fights to his players to get them to understand about how calm under pressure allows them to escape from insurmountable holds. Like it's, you know, credential bias can really, really kill innovation. I really do feel like it. So, Chris, as always, boy, I wish I had 4 more hours of this. We could solve all the world's problems if we did. But
I wish it was that easy.
we'll figure it out one way or another, man. But thank you as always to everyone for tuning in to Gullcast. These are always such gems of episodes. I hope you guys get a lot out of this. Again, you can look at all of our episodes on Spotify and YouTube. Search for our catalog and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Endicott Esports. And if you're really feeling generous, we'd love a 5-star review. But for now, for Chris Lamarucciola, the Dalai Lama of esports, it's Brendan Hall signing off, saying thank you. See you soon. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to follow us at Endicott Esports. See you next time.